Collinwood in the year 1840, a time of crisis for the Collins family. Quentin Collins is on trial for his life, and Desmond, who was defending him, has also been arrested for the same crime, witchcraft, and faces the same penalty, beheading. While the trial prepares to resume, Barnabas is unable to help them, for Lamar Trask has lured him to the cellar of his chapel, where he has walled him in and left him to die.
Mr. Collins, are you there? Why don't you answer me? Is something wrong?
Is it possible he's already dead? No, it's too soon.
Mr. Collins, something has occurred to me. Something I think you might find interesting. Shall I tell you?
Yes.
You would like to go on living, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Well, then, good. You're not dead. Yet. Linger, my friend, while I tell you my fascinating thoughts. What has occurred to me is that you could go on living if you were a vampire. What I've done to you couldn't destroy a vampire, could it? Well, that's a pity for you, but a triumph for me. How proud my blessed father would have been.
Go away, Trask, and let me die in peace.
In peace? Never. My only regret is that it's coming too fast. Don't you agree? Don't you agree?
Oh, it's like a nightmare, isn't it? Think that Desmond was involved with witchcraft.
He's no more guilty than I am, and you know it.
I know, of course he isn't. Look, Quentin, we have quite enough money that we can buy anything. Now, I'm sure of it. You will be freed.
You think I have to buy my freedom?
No, that's not what I meant. We have enough money that you will be able to afford legal assistance. Now, in the meantime, I suggest that you try to get a postponement on the trial. That way we'll replace Desmond. I'm sure the judge will find it justifiable.
There's nothing just about my trial.
Quentin, please. Understand me. I'm trying to help you. If there's anything I could do, I'm here. Please believe me.
All right, I'll try.
Good. Well, I have some work to do. I'll let you know more if I have some information.
Gerard.
Yes.
Have you had any news about Barnabas?
Barnabas? Barnabas Collins has vanished.
Vanished? What's happening to us? One by one, we're being destroyed. Do you suppose the spirit of Judah Zachary is at work, carrying out his revenge? No, I can't believe it. I can't.
Ah, Gerard, I'm glad you came. In going over these papers, I realize there is very little reason to drag this out any longer.
Yes, I agree with you. So what is your plan?
What we have to do is find positive proof that Quentin Collins is Judah Zachary.
Correct. And you have the proof.
No, actually, you have it.
What do you mean, Charles?
Judah Zachary's head. All we have to do is find the head in Quentin Collins' laboratory, and the case will be ended.
Yes, true.
Oh, I expected you to be a little more enthusiastic.
Yes. Surely, Charles, there's another way to put an end to this trial other than using the head of Judah Zachary.
Well, there may be, but this is so simple. The time is so right.
Yes, simple, isn't it? Well, what happens when the trial is over? What will they do with the head? Now, if you were the court, what would you do with it?
Yes. I see. Destroy it.
Exactly. So that is why the head must not be used until the last resort.
Oh, Gerard, I was hoping I would find you here. Good evening, Mr. Dawson.
Mr. Trask?
If I were allowed to take the stand, I think you would find that your working hours would not have to extend into the night. In fact, if I were allowed to take the stand, the trial would soon be over.
Yes, Mr. Trask, I understand your enthusiasm, and in less than 12 hours, you're going to have a chance to prove your point. Tomorrow morning, Mr. Trask, you are going to be called upon to testify.
Tomorrow? Good. I think you shall find it to be a most significant testimony.
Yes, we've discussed it. Well, if you gentlemen will excuse me.
Certainly.
Good night, Charles.
Good night.
Well, you're rather cheerful, aren't you? That's not the usual you, is it? Why, are you contemplating tomorrow's trial?
Oh, no, Gerard, no. It is much more than that. I have the great pleasure to report to you that Barnabas Collins is dead.
Barnabas Collins dead? Are you sure?
Absolutely.
But where? How?
I'm afraid I can tell you nothing more. Barnabas Collins is dead, so be it.
How do you know?
I know.
Trask, that's not the answer that I need. I want more proof. I need it.
God, my lips are sealed. I came only to share my joy with you, not my information.
Why are you so mysterious about this?
Because my father's disappearance many years ago was mysterious, too. It was many years before anyone knew the truth. So shall it be with the disappearance of Barnabas Collins.
Your Honor, I move for a postponement of my trial until legal representation can be found on my behalf.
I object.
How can you possibly object to that?
Your Honor, if this man is indeed involved in the practice of witchcraft, then that time could be used very much to our detriment.
And I object to that, Your Honor. I am not involved with witchcraft.
There will be order in this courtroom.
Your Honor, I apologize. This situation is beyond my realm of experience. Therefore, I do ask for postponement of my trial so that I may find somebody to help me.
Your request is granted. You may have until 1 o'clock to find representation.
1 o'clock today?
Today.
That's only 3 hours.
I am quite aware of that, Mr. Collins. Now, in the event that you are unable to find representation, there are two choices open for you. The court is prepared to appoint an attorney to represent you, subject to your approval, of course, and your alternative is to represent yourself.
And does the court have somebody in mind for this appointment?
Well, given the opportunity, the court would appoint Silas Graham.
Silas Graham?
You are familiar with the name.
Yes, I am indeed, and I won't have that man represent me.
May the prosecution know your objections to Mr. Graham?
You certainly may, Mr. Dawson. Everybody in this court knows that Silas Graham is incompetent, and he has a notorious reputation. I'd sooner represent myself.
Oh, then you feel you are more qualified than Silas Graham.
I do indeed.
Mr. Collins, the court advises you not to make this decision in haste. Oh, you have until 1 o'clock to think this over more carefully. Court is recessed until 1 o'clock.
Quentin, I just talked to the constable. He told me about the postponement and the judge's decision. There's not enough time.
You able to do anything?
Yes, I worked constantly as hard as I could the last time we talked. I did everything in my power to try to find a man for the case, but
what?
I couldn't find anyone. I looked all over the countryside for someone that could handle this case, but to no avail.
No one willing to take my case. And that means they think I'm guilty. At least that's what they meant.
Not necessarily, Quentin.
Either that, or else they feel the case is so hopeless that they can't get anyone to get me out of it. Oh, my God.
Look, Quentin, I know things don't look too good, but you're not totally defenseless, believe me. Now, you know you're as innocent as anything. Why don't you defend yourself?
Gerard, I don't know anything about the law. Even if I did, I'm so involved with this case, I wouldn't do justice to myself.
But you must.
You know, you have a lot of hope and a lot of faith. And I need both of them very badly.
If there's anything I can do, you know I'll be here.
I wish I could think of something myself.
You will. Believe me, I'm sure you will. Well, listen, Quentin, I have some work to do. I'll do everything I can for you. Believe me. Believe me. Well, he's all yours.
What happened?
Nothing.
He found no one?
Of course not. He's been imprisoned, and he asked me to look out for it. So I combed the countryside looking for an attorney, but to no avail.
Oh, what a pity. Have you told him?
Oh, yes, I've told him.
And, what was his reaction?
He was very, very depressed. I'm afraid he's going to be quite ineffectual at court defending himself. So today is the day for the kill, Charles. It's up to you.
Oh, I assure you, I will handle it well.
I have no doubts. Oh, I can't wait for the court to convene at 1 o'clock.
Court will come to order. The case of the state versus Quentin Collins will resume.
Your Honor, before the proceedings continue, may I request that the defendant furnish me with the name of my new adversary?
You may, Mr. Dawson.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Collins, the court was recessed in order for you to have enough time to find someone to represent you. Were you successful? And if so, will you give us the name of the man?
Well, Your Honor, due to the fact that there's no one here with me, it seems quite apparent that I was unable to find representation. Therefore, under the circumstances, and much to my regret, I shall have to speak for myself.
Your Honor, I find it almost impossible to believe that the defendant has not been able to rouse the conscience of some attorney somewhere.
Mr. Dawson, you know, I also find it very hard to believe, but nevertheless, it happens to be true.
And I believe that that in itself makes a very strong statement about the defendant and about this entire case, Your Honor. No one will come forth in his behalf. Thus far, only one man has seen fit to defend Quentin Collins. His own cousin, Desmond Collins, who even at this moment awaits his own trial on witchcraft. What could be more obvious?
Your Honor, I don't know quite how to say this, but I do suspect that those last remarks should be stricken from the court records.
You are absolutely right, Mr. Collins. Mr. Dawson, you are out of order. Mr. Collins, is there any indication that you may possibly in the near future find representation?
Your Honor, I'm not at liberty to say so at the moment.
Very well. And Mr. Dawson, you may call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Prosecution will call Lamar Trask to the witness stand.
Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Mr. Trask, does the name Lorna Bell mean anything to you?
Yes, she was an acquaintance of the late Roxanne Drew. She came to pay her last respects to Roxanne one night at the Trask Chapel.
And was she alone that night in the chapel?
No, she was not.
Who was with her?
The defendant, Quentin Collins.
And when Miss Bell left, did she and Quentin Collins in fact leave together?
Well, I did not actually see them leave together, but I did hear her say she would meet him later.
I see. And when was the next time that you saw Miss Lorna Bell?
Later that evening, again at the Trask Chapel. Only this time, she was dead.
And how had she died?
She was murdered.
Were there any visible marks on the body?
Yes, she had the devil's mark on her forehead.
By the devil's mark, Mr. Trask? Do you mean this?
Yes, that's the mark.
Your Honor, I would like to introduce to this court this pagan symbol known as the devil's mark. Now then, Mr. Trask, have you ever seen this mark again after having seen it for the first time on Lorna Bell's forehead?
Yes, that same night I saw it on a ring that Quentin Collins was wearing.
And is it or is it not true that that same mark was next found on the body of Randall Drew?
That is correct.
And did you or did you not see the defendant, Quentin Collins, standing over the body of Randall Drew?
Yes, I did. Randall was supposed to meet me that evening.
Will you tell the court the purpose of that meeting, please?
Yes, Randall was convinced that witchcraft was being practiced at Collinwood. He and I were going to take our information to the authorities.
And did he believe that this witchcraft was being practiced by the defendant, Quentin Collins?
I object to that.
I will sustain that objection. Mr. Dawson, the witness may not testify as to what a deceased person may have believed or not believed.
Mr. Trask, do you know of any other evidence of the defendant's penchant for the supernatural?
I should like to get back to the matter of Lorna Bell, if I may. What I've told you was not the end of it.
Oh, well, then please continue.
But it is a well-known fact that the defendant's own father, Daniel Collins, God rest his soul, had a vision in which he saw Lorna Bell murdered by the defendant.
I object.
My father was very sick during those days, Your Honor. He frequently had hallucinations.
The court wishes to hear about this vision, so you're overruled, Mr. Collins. Go on, Mr. Trask.
The vision occurred in Quentin Collins' laboratory on the stairway into time.
Stairway into time. Would you clarify that for the court, please?
The defendant has constructed a stairway which he claims is capable of transporting a human being into the past or future.
Oh, in other words, then Quentin Collins has actually supernatural powers over time itself.
I don't know whether he actually has such powers, but I do know that such an experiment is contrary to the laws of nature. It goes against God's will.
And was it not on this stairway that Daniel Collins had a vision during which he witnessed the slaying of Lorna Bell at the hands of Quentin Collins?
That is correct.
Your Honor, I submit that if any of this were true, I would have been a very stupid man to let my father see that vision.
Oh, not so stupid at all, Mr. Collins. At that time, I believe you were the chief beneficiary in your father's will. I say that you intentionally caused him to have that vision, knowing of his weak heart, knowing that such a vision would cause him to drop dead on the spot.
That is a lie.
Gentlemen, we will have order. Mr. Dawson, that last remark of yours will be stricken from the record. But you may continue.
Mr. Trask, do you know anything at all about the strange occurrences that took place on the property of Mordecai Grimes?
Yes, Quentin Collins had long wanted to buy the Grimes property, but Mordecai said he would refuse to sell as long as he was alive.
I see. And then what happened then?
Mordecai's cattle were suddenly and mysteriously stricken. Many of them died. I believe a spell was cast over them.
By Quentin Collins?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I object. I feel there is a difference between what a man believes and what a man knows.
Well, I know for a fact that you threatened Mordecai. You said he'd be sorry if he didn't sell you that land.
Mr. Trask, I did not threaten anyone. But you believe me that I am about to.
Oh, I think you would find it greatly beneficial to your cause if you would try and control your temper, Mr. Collins.
Dawson, if there's any advice to be given to the defendant, the court will be most happy to do so. That reference to a spell being cast will be stricken for the moment. You may continue, Mr. Dawson.
Thank you, Your Honor. You say you know for a fact that he threatened Mordecai Grimes?
Yes.
How do you know that?
Mordecai Grimes told me.
Your Honor, I object. I believe there is a rule against hearsay evidence.
There certainly is, Mr. Collins. Either the witness did hear that threat or he didn't.
Did you hear the threat, Mr. Trask?
No, but Mordecai would not lie to me. He's a fine, upstanding, God-fearing man.
I am sure he is, Mr. Trask. And obviously, if he heard this threat, if it were made, then he will so testify when and if he takes the stand.
And I assure you, Your Honor, that Mordecai Grimes will take the stand. Thank you, Mr. Trask. I have no further questions.
Mr. Collins, will you care to cross-examine the witness?
Well, yes, Your Honor. Yes, I certainly would, but... Well, to my advantage, I think the cross-examination would be best handled by my counsel.
I was under the impression, Mr. Collins, that you were unable to find counsel.
Well, then I apparently gave the court the wrong impression. Therefore, I apologize. But I have found a man to handle my case. But it was impossible for him to be with me when the court convened. And as the cross-examination of Mr. Trask is so desperately important, I asked the court to consider a brief recess while we await the arrival of my new counsel.
I object, Your Honor. This is obviously some trick on the part of the defendant that can cause no good for any of us.
I assure the court there is no trickery on my part. Your Honor, I am on trial for my life. I believe that I deserve counsel who is competent and reliable, and I urge the court to consider a brief recess while we await the arrival of this man.
That won't be necessary, Quentin. I am here.